Our topic today is how to avoid LinkedIn overwhelm. And we are in the thick of it again. I'm gonna do it to you again, Jeff. And
No, that's fine.
we're just having a this is live, folks. This is what
Yes.
happens when you go live. So we are talking about overwhelm, but we literally are experiencing overwhelm in the moment between the weather that I'm going through with Florida right now. It's windy and crazy, and there was like a tornado 2 days ago. Don't go here, but it's nothing compared to what Jeff's going through, who is on his mobile. He's using it as a mobile hotspot. So the guru, who always likes to be desktop, is still desktop. So Jeff, just explain to everybody what on earth is happening to you up there.
Well, there's wet and cold weather here too. It's not snowing or anything along those lines. But basically, what ended up happening is my Spectrum, my internet service, did some maintenance last night. And that maintenance, of course, every time if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So every time you touch something, you run the risk of messing something else up, and that's obviously what's happened. My internet's been going up and down like a yo-yo. It went down the last time at 12 p.m. and it's no good. So I'm on my hotspot. We'll do what we can here. And you want to know about Overwhelm? I can tell you about Overwhelm.
But you know what? This is actually kind of kismet that this is happening, because everything doesn't go smoothly. In life, we do have situations where the internet goes out, or you're traveling and something's going kitty wampus, or sort of the best laid plans of mice and men is that things will go wrong, and you have to just take it all with a grain of salt. And one of the reasons why we talked about this topic today, and Jeff and I, really thought, okay, it's the beginning of the new year. What do we want to talk about? We could just kind of go, oh, you got to do all these things in 2024 and, you'll be ready to go. But it was really, what's the key thing? Jeff came to me and said, what's the key thing? And I said, it breaks my heart to see people in overwhelm. It breaks my heart when I see posts and people say, I'm leaving LinkedIn for a while because, and they talk about maybe they got family stuff going on. Their kids are sick, their spouse is sick, they're taking care of a parent, whatever. Maybe they've got financial hardships they're going through and they're just trying to struggle to make the rent or something. There's so many different things, or maybe they just have to focus on work and they feel LinkedIn's too big. I can't handle this big, huge elephant of LinkedIn. So Jeff, just in case you get flown off the platform, I'm going to stop talking and let you share some candid tips and advice for people that are feeling overwhelmed.
Well, literally, the people are seeing this. We've got folks from the UK, we got folks from Australia on, so it's working. Okay, but the best laid plans of mice and men, I think it's actually pronounced oft gay glee, go awry. Okay. And we planned for this. We had this set up. Everything usually goes just fine, right? But in terms of you have to have, first of all, I think in order to overcome any situation of overwhelm, you have to have a strategy. You have to have a plan. Okay, because if I had not had a plan and a backup, mobile internet today, we wouldn't be doing this. Okay?
Right.
Jillian would be doing it. She'd be talking to herself, unfortunately, but or maybe fortunately, I'm not really sure which. But the point being is so it's the same thing, no matter what you do in any situation. But I see it so often as far as LinkedIn is concerned. People get overwhelmed by LinkedIn and they just throw up their hands and go, I can't handle it. I'm not going here, right? Well, that's not the right attitude. What the right attitude is to have a strategy, have a plan, okay? And one of the first things that you need to do as a part of that strategy and that plan is figure out what you want to do on LinkedIn in the first place. Why are you going to go there in the first place? Is it to get a job? Is it to get a new customer? Is it to, et cetera? It is a myriad of different things for different people, but you got to decide why you're going to be there in the first place, right? Because once you decide why, then you can prioritize and determine how much time you're going to be on LinkedIn. And that's one of the most important things that you can determine for yourself is how much time do you really, really want to devote to LinkedIn? And I think honestly, to avoid overwhelm, you got to put that at some sort of maximum. And that maximum, for me personally, okay, here again, this is just my situation, okay. But in my situation, being a retired project manager or recovering project manager, sometimes I say, okay, and being a LinkedIn guru, okay, the fact of it is that I want to be on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is my thing. I've been doing LinkedIn now for 16 years, right? But even for me, I try to block my time as far as LinkedIn is concerned. In my time zone, I'm trying to be on from 6 a.m. to about noon. Okay.
Mm,
I try to do that. Now that obviously is a lot of time. There are not a lot of people out there, Jillian, that can devote 6 hours to LinkedIn. Okay. But I'll devote 6 hours because that meets my needs of what I want to do and share and get done on LinkedIn. But after that, then I leave it alone and I don't go anywhere else. So a part of that is deciding how much time you really want to spend, how much time you can spend, because we all have other lives. We all have a
right.
personal life. Again, over Christmas and New Year's, I wasn't on LinkedIn very much at all. It wasn't my thing. Okay. But again, being the situation that I am, I actually was on LinkedIn pretty much every single day, but not for very long, not for that 6 hours, as an example. And
Mm.
I know,
So
I know some
you narrowed it down. You
that
narrowed it down.
I narrowed it and and prioritized exactly what I would do on LinkedIn during the time that I was actually on LinkedIn.
Mm,
Okay, so
mm.
now, well, let's leave it at that. What do you is that doesn't fit you because you've got a totally different time frame, especially since you're 3 hours, usually 3 hours earlier than me. Okay, you have a totally different time frame. You do stuff at 10 or 11 o'clock my time at night. Okay,
Right.
and I'm sorry, this old guy's. I'm Betty by that time. Okay, it's like so. So your situation is totally different. But how do you prioritize what you do?
Well, I kind of think of it as like when you have like a notebook, you want to have space between the margins. So I have minimum things I do. So it's like pretty much everything I do is about my lives. So my lives take the precedent for all of my posting. And then I leave breathing space on other days where I can either not be on LinkedIn at all, or I can just go in and see what other people are doing and maybe do some cleanup of like, did I miss some comments a couple days before or something like that? But also, I like to leave the breathing room so that, like, for instance, yesterday, a new StreamYard feature came out and I went, I didn't post today. So I
I
could
saw
just
that.
go ahead and check it out. I went and
Mhm.
did a 3-minute live, but it was just, and I did it like late in the day.
Oh yeah, it was
And
late.
and I do my post towards the end of the day because I'm in Las Vegas usually. Right now I'm traveling, so I'm all over the place with time zones right now. But when I'm in Las Vegas, I already know I'm behind the rest of the country. So I accept that and I work within my biorhythms and my biorhythms. I'm a night owl. So I love my Australian friends because when I'm up late on LinkedIn, I have someone to talk to.
Yep.
So that's what you have to do is find out what's right for you and define those boundaries. And I don't like to do weekends. I used to do LinkedIn 7 days a week and I burnt out. And so I went, I need to define my boundaries. And my boundaries are I want to go spend family time. I want to get out in nature. I want to do stuff. And so, and I never post that stuff. And
Yeah.
people say, how come you don't post your personal stuff? I do once in a while, but not very much. But it's because I don't wanna be commenting when I'm out doing stuff. But that's just me. That's just me.
No, no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, part of the reason we are having this conversation today is because of a conversation you and I had totally off LinkedIn about a year and a half or so ago. Okay, I think you were on one of your driving trips from Phoenix to or
Yes.
Las Vegas to Phoenix, or vice versa. Okay,
Yep.
and we were talking about this very subject, and I said, you know what, Jillian, I'm not having any fun anymore. Okay. I mean,
Mm.
it feels too much like work to me. And for a guy who's been retired for 16 years, I've tried to avoid work a great deal, believe me. Okay. And for me, that conversation came through, and you gave me some of the best advice that I've ever had as far as LinkedIn is concerned, right? Even the guru can accept advice from his peeps and his tribe. Okay. You told me, you know what you need to do? You need to prioritize and start doing more of the stuff that you like and less of the stuff that you don't. And it was as simple as that. If it feels good to you, if you enjoy doing it, do it. Do some more of it. Okay. But again, there are only 24 hours a day, and you need
Right.
time to do lots of other things. But that advice from you to me was something that set me down a path that has continued over that last year and a half. Because yeah, I used to post a lot as well. Now I am down talking about posting. Now I am down to posting like once a week. Okay.
Mm,
Now let's back up for a second. Part of that strategy, part of that plan that we talked about, okay? One of the other things is you have to determine what it is you're going to do on LinkedIn as well. In
mm,
other words, and how much of what you're going to do on LinkedIn, right? So one of those first decisions you're going to have to make is whether or not you are actually even going to post content.
mm.
It is an actual binary decision, yes or no. But be aware of the fact that if you do the yes, you just signed up for what you talked about as well. And I've been for forever. If you post, you have to be there. If you
Yep.
post, you have to actually, you have to curate your content as well,
Yep.
right? But I will maintain, and this may be controversial to a lot of people out there. I agree that posting is a differentiator. It is
Mm,
especially a differentiator because I don't believe the statistics have changed that much, even over the COVID times. There's no more than about 5% of the billion people that are on LinkedIn that are posting on a regular basis.
mm.
That's really not very high. Okay. But if you want to differentiate yourself, that's a good way to do so because now you've got, there's still a lot of, of a lot of bandwidth out there for you to
Right.
increase your reach, right? So the point being is that yeah, you might not decide to post, but if you don't decide to post, then you're still going to have to do something else to bring attention to yourself. And I don't mean this in an egotistical way. I mean bring attention to yourself in terms of you actually are going to be noticed on LinkedIn. And we've
Building
talked
your brand, building
exactly,
your brand. It's
exactly.
kind of like Danielle Guzman, who when I first kind of came across Danielle Guzman, and she was on the show. We did a whole LinkedIn live about this, where all I ever saw was her comments, but her comments were meatier than most people's posts.
Bingo.
And
Exactly.
she became the queen of comments in my eyes and to many other people, in that she built her brand by being someone who leaves thoughtful and well thought out and strategic comments. Now, not that she's, sitting there doing anything strange. She's always from the heart, but you can tell she reads a post and then she thinks, what do I have to say? What do I have to
Yeah.
contribute to this conversation?
Yeah.
And that is a fabulous way to build a brand, and you're commenting and just think about all the people seeing it, as opposed to you saying, I'm going to do 365 days of what I'm eating at McDonald's. It's like like, what value does this add?
Yeah.
Nothing. There's
Exactly.
just you
What
looking
is this? Twitter?
whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Build your
honestly, I,
brand.
I used to have a Twitter account. I even got being the LinkedIn guru. I don't need a Twitter account. Although I would give some people advice. If you have one, you might not want to get rid of it because Twitter LinkedIn help is actually sometimes better than LinkedIn help on LinkedIn. Go figure on that one. But I've heard that a great deal. But I got rid of my Twitter account because honestly, I used to describe when I used to talk about Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, the big three, right? Okay. I used to say, well, we all know that LinkedIn's not Facebook, okay? And it's still not Facebook. I don't care how much personal content there is out here on LinkedIn, it's still not Facebook, okay? But Twitter, I always used to describe Twitter as it's the place where you go to find out where your favorite celebrity has their last cheese sandwich. Whatever, okay? Who cares? I don't care. Okay. If you want to go to Twitter, that's fine. You can, and it's obviously valuable as well. Let's talk about the content back about content for just a second as well. Because if you do end up doing content, okay, then you need to treat LinkedIn also as a part of your plan. It is like, I'll post something and I'll be popular forever. Nah, forget that, folks. That's just not happening. This is a marathon, not a sprint. It's another
Mm,
decision that you have to make is if you're going to post content, you have to continue posting content
mm,
regularly, consistently, and putting that brand out there so that people can see it. Now that gets
Mm,
us to one that I've seen here a couple of these things recently in other kinds of posts. Okay, one of which is how often to post. Okay, and there was just a poll that I participated in by one of our other peeps out there. I forget exactly who it was, so I apologize. But the point being is that some people post 7 times a week. I
mm.
haven't got time to read 7 things a week. The peeps that I know that do post 7 times a week, I will give them one day, okay, one post one day, but I won't. I'm sorry, I got to ignore the rest of what they're doing. Okay, so but the other thing that will help you in terms of coming up with content, and one of the things that is extremely important is something that we call repurpose your content. You do it all the time. You're doing it tomorrow because you're going to be having a podcast of this, right? And the podcast is a different kind of audience and a different kind of content, and it actually does actually increase your reach, and that's a really good thing. I mean, it's for a totally different type of audience. It's an audio audience instead of a video audience, right? And on the audio audience, on the podcast, they won't see me rip open my shirt and show my red ass, okay? but I can tell them I did.
Exactly, exactly. Which
Like I
is
just
why we record for the ear, because we know that this is, again, this is part of having a strategy and a plan. We're not sitting here showing slides so that anybody listening would say, I don't know what's going on. Now I don't feel part of this anymore.
yeah,
We always want to record for the ear on this particular show because that's what works. But for another kind of LinkedIn life, maybe they're doing how to's and screen sharing and,
sure,
walking you through stuff.
could be.
So again, you always have to think about what's the point? What am I trying to
Yes.
do here?
That's exactly what's the point. Now, another thing as far as content and another thing as far as the point is concerned is that you and I will go back and we will make sure that we will get to the comments that are out here, right? Which,
Hmm.
oh, by the way, from a content perspective, I have always thought that there is a best practice that is related to content that comes from this statement. Make your content not about you. Make it
Mm.
about your audience. Make it about what those people out there, which is a really good segue into comments. If you'd like to go into the comments and start talking, because I've seen we've got a lot of comments coming through, so it's working. Thank you, phone.
You're the very first comment. So even when you're the guest, you get to be the first comment. So you're awesome. You're
I did,
awesome. I love
I
that.
did that days ago. I did that
And
from
and
I did that from YouTube, as a matter of fact.
so it
Yep.
makes you realize that YouTube has a little bit of a super advantage here. So I think that's kind of cool. I love it. I love it. So here's our buddy Kevin Turner who says, I'm in the lobby, let me in. So
Come on down.
I'm imagining him just knocking on the door. And then of course we have the wonderful Mary Wu, who
There's
is
a front row.
she gets the front row and she brought snacks.
Oh,
So we
the
always love
donuts will go
Mary.
well with the popcorn. Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. We got our buddy Debbie. She's here and waiting. Another person in Florida who lived very close to the hurricane or tornado that
Yeah.
touched down the other day. So it's crazy. We've got
Speaking of
Roy who
Australia,
gets up in the middle of the morning to come. So he says, I'm in the pre-live, looking forward to the
5 or
session.
6
And
a.m.
again, yeah, and again, this is another wonderful thing about how, if you want to come on LinkedIn and you're like, oh, in Overwhelm, come to a live because you get to meet other people, you get to network with other people. It's a fun experience. And even if you just came and only went to a live or go to a replay, again, you get to go on your turn, on your time.
Right.
It's like there's a live that I wanted to see this morning. I wasn't able to get there in time because I was preparing for my live. I got to go back and watch the replay because it's not just about me. I want to I want to learn from other people too.
Absolutely.
So people are laughing at each other.
Yep.
So it's good. So yeah, if you're not, I love Mary. She says, if you're not
That's a good
having
point,
trouble with
Julia. Yeah,
technology, you're not using it
that's a
enough.
good
And
point. That's a very
yeah,
good point. Yep. Because
it's
sooner or later,
and
it's going to happen.
yeah, and it's not taking yourself so seriously that it's like, oh, then it's going to be quick kitty wampus. And we even today, Jeff and I had a backup plan that if the cameras went out, we were going to just go ahead and I will show you. Sorry, podcast people, you don't get to hear this. You can actually just turn off your camera. So that was one of the things that we had as the backup plan. We'll just turn off our cameras and keep talking. So, and actually the podcast people would be just as happy. So they're like, okay,
They wouldn't
works
know
for
any better.
us.
Right? Yeah, they wouldn't
Yeah.
know we even did it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Deanna is here and she says, happy to be here. My friends Jillian and Jeff are amazing. I miss the overwhelming start,
That's
which is
outstanding
always
start.
good. Yes, yes, yes. And we have the lovely John Asperian joining us. Glad you both managed to get
Hey,
on.
John,
Well done to Jeff for getting his phone to hotspot in. And
didn't know it was
again,
going to
these
work, but it did
it's,
apparently work.
these are amazing things where you just go, okay, how can I be flexible? How can I have a backup plan? I always have a backup plan. If
Yeah.
for any reason, and again, today, Jeff went ahead and sent me a message before the live, about an hour before the live, and he said, I'm having problems. This is my plan. I will meet you here. I will be doing this. He told me what was happening so that as the host, I wouldn't be blindsided. So
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
everything's good. Everything's good.
Overwhelm works
So
on both ends, doesn't it? Yes.
yes, yes, yes. So Jeff, what do you say about the people who sometimes an overwhelm is not about time? And I can't keep up with the content and this and this and this. Sometimes it's I feel less than. And I personally, I'll raise my hand. I'm going to be totally vulnerable here. I have had times where I've gone on to the LinkedIn newsfeed and I just go, wow, it feels like everybody's got it but me. Like they're just, they're telling you, I closed $6 million deals and this and that. And you're just like, I'm still doing discovery calls. And
Yeah.
sometimes that can be a part of LinkedIn. I think it probably is worse on other platforms, like maybe an Instagram, where you're just like, oh, nobody likes me eating my McDonald's hamburger, but they like everybody else. But what do you say to those people that just feel I'm not enough
Yeah.
being on? I'm not enough. I need to leave because I'm not the influencer. What do you say to
No.
that?
My first words are stop it. Okay. Don't think that way. That is absolutely the wrong way to think. Look, we all started at zero here. Okay.
Mm,
And again, it is a marathon, not a sprint. But I didn't get 100 comments per post, the very beginning. Okay. And neither did anybody else. It just doesn't happen that way. So, don't, first of all, fear of missing out is something you need to take out of your vocabulary. Okay. Second of all, comparing yourself to others is something you need to take out of your vocabulary as well. The only person that you should be comparing yourself to is yourself. Are
mm,
you making progress? Are you getting better at this? Is this working for you? And if then the answer is no, then you need to make some changes to move around, but not because of something someone else did, unless that something else that someone else did was good advice from someone like Jillian, okay, or good something that you saw. Literally, honestly, one of the reasons that I don't spend a great deal of time at all on the feed, just the main feed, is that I don't need to hear any of that stuff. I get to hear what I want to hear, and not I'm not trying to be what's the I don't want to be a snob about that, okay? But I want to hear what my crowd, my tribe has to say. Okay.
mm,
So I spend a whole lot more time looking at their feeds than the main feed. Okay.
mm,
So that's a part of the strategy and the plan piece as well. Go back to that strategy and plan. The one of the things that you're going to have to decide is you're going to have to decide who your tribe is. And that
mm,
tribe is at a couple of different levels. Who you're going to connect to, who you're going to follow, who you're going to ring their bell. Okay. And literally, honestly, that's one of the things that has decreased the overwhelm for me, is that I have followed and rang the bell of several of my connections, but that several didn't get any bigger than about 20 or 25.
mm,
Literally, if I rang everybody's bell, it has no effect. Okay. But if I ring the key people's bells, I will see their stuff in not my feed, but my notification. Sometimes I see it in the feed as well, but I'm going to see it in the notification. So what I did was go, I don't want to focus on this big, broad kind of thing. I want to focus in on exactly what I'm after, and that is related to exactly who I'm after. And that means
mm.
my tribe as well, right? So again, follow. Most people don't even know that, and by the way, you can follow anybody on LinkedIn. You don't have to be
That's
connected
true.
with them. Okay.
That's
So
true.
I follow a lot of people that I'm not even connected with, and I ring their bell as well, because I want to have those conversations that we talked about that were so important with them, right? So it's just one of those things where you change the focus, okay, and you change the strategy so that you're not being overwhelmed by this huge amount of. I mean, the feed never stops; it goes on and on and on forever and ever, right? But at least you can pinpoint it down by having the people that you really want to see on speed dial, so that you can go see their stuff instead.
Mm.
It's that easy for me, and it does help a great deal because that way I don't have to take care of it. Okay. Okay, good. I'll leave it at that. And
I think that's good. And it's funny. Like I remember years ago, I read a book. It was like Marie Kondo. The title is escaping me now. I'll remember it and put it on. But it was all about kind of getting rid of, like, uncluttering your life. And she went through everything. I kind of blew it when I got to the books because I can never unclutter with books. But one of her things was asking, does something give you joy and pleasure? And, truly with people that I follow them because either I just really like them as individuals, or I want to learn from them, or they just make me happy. Like sometimes it's totally unrelated to anything I do for business, but it's just like they give me joy and pleasure by following them. So if I have somebody who's the opposite and every time I see them, I don't feel good about myself, I always kind of look and say, is it maybe because I'm like, what's it reflecting back to me?
yeah,
Is it because I just don't they don't resonate for me as a human being? I just don't care for them? Or is it maybe they're doing something that I should be doing that I'm not doing, and I'll try and learn from the experience? So I
right.
kind of weigh it up, but truly at the end of the day, if that person doesn't give you joy and pleasure, move on.
Well, yeah, and I didn't, honestly, you don't even have to unconnect with them in order to
Just
do that
unfollow.
because there's an unfollow button as well. Exactly. I mean, when you connected with them, you did basically, okay, follow them because that's the part of the connection, right? But you can stay connected with somebody and unfollow them, and that way, again, you don't clutter up your feed with anything that comes your way. And
Exactly.
there's another piece of this overwhelm that I think people are going to have to come to grips with as well. And we haven't talked about this one yet, but I want to kind of finish up with this one because a part of the overwhelm is like you get too many emails a day, don't you? Well, of course, everybody
Mm,
does, right?
mm,
Well, we get too many DMs a day as well. Okay.
mm.
So the thing is though that I'm trying to make sure that I focus on what I really want, and therefore I am grouping people together again in tribes. And I just did to the Fantastic Four. Okay, let's yeah, exactly, me, okay, you, and Kevin D. Turner and Debbie Weems, okay, are the Fantastic Four out here, and we share things on a practically daily basis. So I just put something out there in the DM when it's important enough to ask you guys. That's when I'll drop the DM, okay,
Mm.
and I'll go back to my DMs. Please don't ignore them. That's ignoring your network. That's a bad thing,
True.
okay.
True. True.
But and also overwhelm could happen as far as invitations is concerned as well.
Mm.
Okay. This is one that I took care of a long time ago, folks. And I know this is going to sound snobbish, but it really was a defense mechanism. As far as invitations to connect were concerned, I turned my invitations off unless someone has my email address, which means I've already had a conversation with them, which means we've already exchanged business cards, which means we've already had something going in the first place, and I'm okay with getting an invitation then, right? As long as they know my email. Now, again, I'm not trying to be snobbish about that, but what that has accomplished for me again is a focus that says I'm focused on the people that I'm really building relationships with instead of people that I encounter randomly. And it also has eliminated every single one of those spammy DMs that says,
Yeah.
"Hi, I build websites. Hi, I've got a franchise I'd like to sell you. Hi, take it down the hall, please." Okay. And they don't come up in mine anymore. So those invitations don't show up. Occasionally a DM like that will show up, but it's so easy to get rid of those as well. But you
But
got to
that's
know
you
how.
but that's just you defining your boundaries. So
Exactly.
it's like you should never have to apologize. LinkedIn puts that out there. And now that we have a limitation on anybody on the free plan, we can only send, 10 personalized invites. We're going to see more and more blank invitations. So don't yell at us. Just if you don't want to get blank invites, turn them off. It's like
Yeah,
empower yourself. You
yeah,
get to define your boundaries.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think this is so good. So Roy says, overwhelm is such a relevant topic. He's absolutely right on. And our lovely friend Marcia is here. Welcome to the real life, Jillian and Jeff. You always speak on technical issues. Ah, it's so
Because
true.
so many
So
of them
true.
happen to us, I think. Yes.
That's so true. And then the
Ah,
lovely
Lois.
Lois is coming in from South Wales, totally overwhelmed by everything today, in particular by John Experience dressing gown. In the nicest way. Happy New Year. And I love that she says Happy New Year because I remember a time John Experience said, there's a particular range of time of
Yeah.
when you can keep saying Happy
Yep.
New Year. And I haven't seen that post yet. But on a note of John Esperian, I'm not going to name any names because this was within his group. So within the Espresso Plus group, somebody wrote a post yesterday to John, sort of like a community post, and basically applauded him for taking time off during the holidays
Oh,
and following through because he said, I'm not doing the Friday shout. I'm going to take some time off. And I just wanted to say, when people say they're going to take that step from LinkedIn and actually
sure.
do it,
Do it.
you're teaching us, you're leading by example that
Yes.
it's okay. It's, it's like when the big people do it, then the little people feel, okay, I it's okay if I want to go
Yeah.
to, go spend a week away with my husband and, just go walk on a beach or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't have to feel guilty because no one should ever feel guilty of not being on LinkedIn. That's a
Absolutely.
get
Yes.
rid of that phrase.
Well, no, because it just turns out again, you're just expressing your preferences, right? You're just living your priorities because something else is more important than LinkedIn for you at that particular point in time. And for me, around that Christmas and New Year's time, that was more important for me to be off LinkedIn and be around the people that I wanted to be physically instead of virtually. Okay? But it's
Absolutely.
perfect.
Absolutely. So we've pretty much come to the end of our 30 minutes. And so Jeff, is there like just a final takeaway you want to leave everybody with today?
I think we've talked about focus, so again, I probably mentioned this on one of your lives before, but I'm being a movie nut, okay? I always go back to quotes from movies. So if you remember nothing else from today, remember the quote by Mr. Miyagi, okay, to Daniel as far as Karate Kid is concerned. You must focus, Daniel-san, okay? Please make sure you focus what you do on LinkedIn. And if you need help, talk to one of us because we've been there, done that. We know how to get around some of those overwhelming things that can be DMs, that can be notifications, et cetera. Okay. And finally, more than anything else, I think if you learn to do that, if you learn to focus, Daniel-san, okay, if you learn to focus, you will get another F word, and that is the fun word. It will be much more fun for you. And that's really why we should be here in the first place, because it's fun to be out here and be with the people that are out here, right? That makes
I
sense.
love that. I love that. And yes, it does make so much sense. And if it ain't fun, it's not worth doing.
Nope.
At the end of the day, it's like it has to be fun and we have to have a good time. So I love that. I love that. So thank you, Jeff, for using up your entire data plan today to be on my live. So applaud you. And I just think it's just so funny because you are the person who never does anything on their phone. And here the first thing you went to is
If not for
use
my
your
phone, I
phone.
wouldn't be here today.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
we'll say goodbye to everybody today. I'll try and run the exit video, but who knows? We don't know if it'll show up, but we'll see. So anyways, we'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
Adios. Namaste.